example, there are historical accounts that our epics and the Greek epics may be referring to, but it is all in the realm of speculation largely. Vineet, I want to start from you.
Nisha, thank you very much. And good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for taking out the time and being here this afternoon. When we come to Jaipur Literature Festival, we are always very nervous because we don't know which other session is happening. And the last time I was here, I had the misfortune that my session was clashing with Mr. Shashi Tharoor. So you can imagine what kind of audience I had. No, but I'm just kidding. I still had about 300 people. So always encouraging to be here. Thank you very much, the venue managers for playing the trailers of my books, Harappa and Mastaan. That's a terrific beginning. I hope you all enjoyed it. To come to your question, Nishtha, it's an absolute honor for me to be sharing the stage with you and with Mr. Kaul. And I was looking forward to this session because, this is a topic very close to my heart. To answer your question, I think when you say speculative fiction, how it makes it different from fiction is that there is a creation which does not exist before. I'll give you an example. So when I write a love story of, a boy and a girl in Delhi University, that's fiction. I'm writing about their lives, I'm writing about their story. But am I creating a whole new world? I don't think so. So when we speak about speculative fiction, I think I can go back to, just the trailer that you all saw, which is the Harappa trilogy. I don't know how many of you have read the Harappa trilogy, but what it does is it takes you back 3,700 years. It's actually two parallel stories, one modern story which runs along with, an ancient story and how the two are interconnected. But it takes you 3,700 years back to the Harappan, the Indus Valley civilization or the Saraswati Sabhyata, like a lot of people now believe it was. And what I have done in that book is, and I've done it with a huge amount of love and a lot of enjoyment, is that I've tried to create what Harappa must have been like, what the Sindhu Sabhyata must have been like, along with all its controversies of whether there was an Aryan invasion or not, of whether, the people of Harappa and Mohenjo-daro were indigenous people and they did not come, from anywhere outside, did really blue-eyed, white-skinned riders ride through the Khyber and invade, the Indus Valley civilization. So I have tried to create a whole new world of what that pre-Vedic era would have been like. And that, I would say, the characters that have been created, the cities that have been created, and various other, various other elements of entertainment and fantasy. So in my opinion, I think that would be more speculative because there is an absolutely new creation in the story.
I want to take the same question to you, Mr. Kaul.
So first, thank you, Vineet. It's a real honor to be both of you. Let me start you first with the word literary, because we're at a literary festival. The word Sahitya, which means literary, was first coined in Kashmir by Kuntaka the aesthetician. And he was very clear about what is literary versus what is any other form of writing. And what he said was, literature is that where the word, shabd, the meaning, arth, can be interpreted in 12 different ways. That was the high mark that Kuntaka set. Now, within that framework, let me walk you through the Indic approach to it. Fiction is what is possible. And as I said, what is possible Fiction is what is, because there's science, the laws of science that can make it come true. But beyond science fiction was what I call fictive reality. And the glory of Indian literature, its towering accomplishment, was the literary genre called Niti stories. Niti stories were pioneered in India. The first great Niti collection of stories was, of course, the Panchtantra. And what was the innovation in Panchtantra? Panchtantra was the first to use apologue. Apologue meaning animals speaking, talking, and exhibiting the nature of human beings. It would astonish the reader. It is to this day the most translated book out of India. Its current avatar, the people who practice Niti, and we'll talk more about what Niti is of course Disney, that many of you youngsters watch The Lion King and watch Bugs Bunny. What was the purpose of Niti literary genre? We talked about possibility, we talked about plausibility. Niti was about powerability. If you read a Niti story, it gave you some power. What that power was, we'll talk more in the session.
Right. To carry forward the idea of Niti, it is also prescriptive morality. Right? How a way of life that ought to be the hallmark of the civilization. Right. And in your book, I think there is a very strong strain of that prescriptive morality.
Okay. So this is the first time I'm in my life actually going to respectfully disagree with the moderator. The relevance of Niti today, and my novel is the first novel ever written in the English language using Niti literary principles, is that Niti existed before there was religion. There were no major religious figures that you belong to or follow that were even born when Niti stories were created. There is no concept of morality in Niti. In fact, if you go and read the Niti story of the crows and the owls, which now Vineet has made into devas and demons, same battles. The crows are being slaughtered by the owls. They face death. The answer is, when you are weak and when you're facing an enemy that's ruthless, the answer does not lie in morality. Niti's answer is, lie, lie, lie. And the crows lie and they defeat the owl. Go read that story. Because Niti has a very different life objective function. Niti says, when you are born, you're born with only a single birthright. One birthright is all that you're born with. That birthright is you're born with the freedom to achieve your life quest. And that's the objective function, to get you to your life quest. And what is that life quest? Niti says what the US Marines say today. Be all you can be. That you can get everything in life while alive. And so Niti's goal was to fill you with that power that could enable you to overcome any objections. So there were no rules, there were no algorithms, there was no morality, there was no 10 commandments, there was no manusmriti, there was no ethicality, there was only life experiences designed to fill you with power to get you to your goal.
Right. Vineet, now is your cue to come in. About, all that you can be. And you explored that particular possibility, your characters are actually grappling with that question. It could be somebody's ancestry, the bloodline, right? And the quest is to uncover that. The quest is to find who that person really is. What do you have to say to that? The quest.
Sure, Nishtha. The one thing, before I answer your question, I just wanted to add to what Mr. Kaul was saying. I think when we write books, apart from, of course, bringing value to the reader in various forms, it could be, in the form of knowledge, it could be in the form of entertainment. I think one of the very important responsibilities of a writer is to be able to convey or, be able to propagate something that he or she believes in. And like Mr. Kaul mentioned, that the Panchatantra is probably the most widely read and widely translated book ever. And if you see that, there are stories and there are messages which are being conveyed through those, animal-like characters. And I must share with you that one of the reasons, very much in line with what is being discussed, one of the reasons why I decided to write the Harappa trilogy was because I really felt and I really saw around me that, the generation of today and the millennials and probably, people who are even younger, there's a desperate need to bring them closer to our epics, to our stories, to our culture. Some of you would know, some of you who are my age would remember that we grew up, watching Ramanand Sagar ki Ramayan and B.R. Chopra ki Mahabharat. If you remember, some of you, that when Mahabharata and Ramayana used to come on TV on Sunday, India used to look as if there's a curfew because everybody was glued on to the TV. Now that's how we were brought up, and I would have conversations with my grandfather, and I kid you not, that the first story my grandfather ever told me was the story of Lord Ram. And there was and I'm not here to speak about, any political topic or about the Ram Janmabhoomi issue. I think the Supreme Court has already given the verdict and there's no merit in any of us giving our opinions. But I must tell you that I was talking to a youngster one day and he says, "What the hell are you guys talking about? It's a real estate dispute." And it really struck me that irrespective of which side you're on, is this really a real estate issue? And the reason is the stories of Lord Ram, the importance of Lord Ram have not been taken to those households. Then I asked him very simply, I said that if tomorrow there is an encroachment on the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem where Christ was crucified and somebody encroaches that and breaks it, would that be a real estate dispute? If the Gurudwara Rakabganj where Guru Gobind Singh was beheaded, if there is, I'm not saying how many years ago it happened or whatever happened, but the importance of Lord Ram was so horribly missing. I must share with you, I was at a dinner with at a friend's place and we were all standing closer to the bar like most men normally do after half an hour of initial socializing. And one of the kids who was playing inside, he came and asked his dad in front of all of us, Papa, Duryodhan Ramayan mein tha ya Mahabharat mein? And, we all had a laugh, but it really stung me that have we reached a place where the millennials, no, I shouldn't say millennials, I think the millennials would know, but the even younger generation, probably, kids in their 12 years or 10 years or 14 years, do they really not know where Duryodhan was? I kid you not, you pick up, my daughter goes to this wonderful school and I see and I observe those kids. They know more about the Avengers than they know about the Ramayana.
But,
sorry, allow me to finish, please.
Okay.
There is, you ask them what is the name of Thor's hammer, and they'll tell you it's the Mjolnir, but they probably won't know Arjun's Gandiv. And which is where I felt that one chapter of our history, our culture, which was the Indus Valley civilization or the Saraswati civilization, if we try and teach to these youngsters, in a regular textbookish manner, we may fail. Just the way there was entertainment in the B.R. Chopra and Ramanand Sagar stories we watched, I wanted to bring, that element of history to the youngsters, but in the form of a very entertaining story.
But why hold it against them if they are not aware? I mean, purely from a literary perspective, because we all pick and choose what appeals to us the most. I would want you to answer that.
So, I'm not blaming anybody. The only thing I would say is, in my personal case, I wish I had spent more time with my grandmother and mother, because they are the carrier of stories in our culture. And stories have power. Niti stories have even a greater extraordinary power. Shivaji Chhatrapati became a hero because of the stories his mother told him. And in my story, picking up what Vineet said, in a Niti story there's entertainment, because ultimately you're not going to read it if you're not amazed. There's edutainment, there's empowerment, and there's enablement. And in my story, the very first way I start is in the character Dawn. I introduce Dawn to you. But then do you know? You may think, oh, this guy lives in America, he's picked an American name, what does Dawn have to do with India? But Dawn is Usha. Kali, Durga, none of these deities existed in the Rig Veda. Dawn was the most powerful feminine energy in the Rig Veda. Dawn today is the only energy emanating out of India that has gained universal acceptance. Usha traveled to Greece and became Eos. From Greece, it traveled to England and became Eos 3. And I'll quickly make a point at the end here, just bear with me. The message of Dawn for all of us is every time you face a challenge, the first thing you should ask yourself is, how do I reinvent myself to overcome the challenge? If you don't reinvent yourself, it'll be a case of the immovable object stopping you unless you become the irresistible force. Christianity came along, took over the festival of Easter, and it became Easter. Easter is no different. It's the story of being reborn. And if you think it was limited to that, no. When the Jewish Sanhedrin fled persecution, interestingly, the very first town where they took refuge was named Usha. So my very first protagonist name brings you into this world of what is the power within you to achieve your quest. And the message of Dawn in the Rig Veda was, you have the power to reinvent yourself. We will talk about more powers that Niti teaches us as we go along.
Right. So, Vineet, you have clearly spelled out what inspired you to write, to pick your subjects and to write in the fashion that you do. Now, since you take your readers back in, thousands years ago and what the world would have been like. Now, for a writer, isn't there a danger that people might think that this is what it was indeed?
That's such a cool question, Anishta. Because I kid you not, the number of emails I've got, and I wrote 3 business books when I started my writing career, and they were reasonably successful. But the amount of love that readers have showered upon me once the Harappa trilogy came out, it's 3 books: Harappa, Curse of the Blood River, Pralay, the Great Deluge, and Kashi, Secret of the Black Temple. And when these books came out, like I said, there was so much love from readers. The popularity became so much. The books were bestsellers, are bestsellers even today. And an interesting trivia is that the Harappa trilogy has been picked up by Reliance Entertainment for the making of 2 big films or a web series in what is India's largest ever book-to-screen deal. So that should... Thank you. So that should tell you, how much readers have loved it. And Nishtha, you will be amazed to know that, the hundreds and thousands of emails and messages that I get, the question, a lot of the readers have asked me or have commented, Vineet, thank you for telling us the real history of India.
That's fantastic. And I guessed as much that people may be thinking, oh, that's how exactly things unfolded back then.
Because what has happened is that there is this great debate, as a lot of you would know, that did the Aryan invasion theory, was it really a reality? Or was it something that, some Western historians, including Max Muller and the others, basically, just propounded? And when you do a little bit of research, you will realize there's enough evidence, on both sides. The research I did, there was more evidence that there was no Aryan invasion. And too many things, it's a very simple question that when there is a civilization which at its peak was more than 5 million people, and they were a civilization which was strong enough to build cities, to use, hydraulic systems for sanitation, who knew metallurgy, who knew town planning and all of that. Will such an establishment, such a massive civilization, just overnight pack their bags and run at the sight of a few thousand riders coming from the Khyber? And if they did, so Mohenjo-Daro, Harappa, when you see their construct, you will see that there are big walls, almost impregnable for the weapons of those times, which surrounded those cities. So if there was indeed an invasion, I'm sure there would have been resistance. And resistance would mean there should be, in the excavations, some evidence of a violent struggle. Apart from a few broken bronze arrows, nothing has been found. There are many such things, ritual pits, which were Vedic pits, have been found. Their seals and stamps have Pashupati, who is, another form of Lord Shiva. So, all that is separate. But the point is that I have in my story, and in a very haunting, fantasy, violent story, I have spoken about how there was no Aryan invasion and what really happened in the Saraswati Sabhyata or the Indus Valley civilization. And because I've used a lot of evidence, a lot of works of Indian and Western historians, their research and all of that, the people in India who want to believe this theory, and I can understand why they do. I also want to believe the theory that we Indians are one and there are no fault lines and there were no outside invaders. But there's a big majority that wants to believe that, and they have all written to me saying, thank you for telling us the real history. And I promptly write back to all of them saying this is fiction. The research that you see is real, but the story that is written is fiction. But you're absolutely right. It delights me sometimes to read those mails, but also scares me.
Also scary, yes, I would believe. Now, your story actually takes a huge leap forward. Now, what is the response that you get? And does it scare you and delight you in equal measure?
So, I first want, great question. I first want to build on what Vineet said. Vineet said, Nishita, you'll be amazed at. Niti stories, the first basic principle of writing a Niti story is it's written in Adbhut Rasa.
Yes.
So you're used to Rasa theory in dance, you're used to Rasa theory in music and poetry. But in literature, a lot of our great Indian writers in English tend to use English literary principles. But this particular novel is written in Adbhut Rasa, the rasa of wonder, the rasa of amazement. So, in Kashmir, and I'll tell you a couple of proverbs that are at the foundation of this story. One proverb is, there are many histories, but there's only one future. And remember, what is Niti concerned about? Niti is concerned about your quest and about your future. That is what is
also
most
survival, perhaps.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Survival, but not just sarre, not just existence, but reaching your end goal. And that metaphor, that image which is so powerful in our culture, the river has to flow around every obstruction to reach the ocean. That is our quest, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is this, which led to my wanting to write the story for young ones and adults. From the dawn of humanity, all our epic stories are about one topic: life versus death. If you go and you even go back to the times of Buddha, before his final enlightenment, who approaches him? Mara. Mara sends his two daughters to tempt Buddha. Mara is a short form of Mrityu. Mrityu is death. Today, if you look, your world is surrounded by fear of violence, fear of death. Your homes have become fortresses. You can't enter a venue without the guy checking you out. We don't realize it. Fear of Mara, fear of Mutyu, fear of death has become endemic. And young people look at a future with some fear and anxiety. Who has the answer? Interestingly, Dawn. In a beautiful poem on Dawn by Kalidasa, he describes her as one of her properties is the life of life and the death of death. And how does Niti create the life power, the life of life? It does so by wonder. Descartes said, wonder is the first passion of the soul. So when you go into a state of wonder, it is the only biological way in which you can escape the prison of your mind. And when you escape out of the prison of your mind, possibilities emerge, fixity gives way to fluidity. Archimedes jumps out of his tub, says, Eureka, you have aha moments. And the purpose of this novel is to say to you, your gift as a child, when you just look at the world, you just can't stop smiling, is because you naturally were given a gift of the state of wonder. But as you become an adult, you become serious. Oh my, everything is very straight. Now don't forget, the most serious person is the person who's dead. There is no movement there. Wonder is about movement and getting yourself to look at possibilities. And that's the gift of Dawn, that it gives you the power to think of possibilities. And that's why I put it in the future, because my goal is to bring back the empowerment devices of our civilization for the benefit of humanity so you can achieve your goals in life.
Right. About the reader response, how have your readers responded?
The early response of the readers is astonishment, amazement, and again, you'll see, I generally don't go to celebrities. There's only one celebrity I've gone to in my life, otherwise I go to serious people. But I'll build on what Vineetji said. Anupam Kher wrote, this fantastical tale is a message for all eternity. And what I would submit to Vineet Bajpayeeji's consideration is, sometimes fiction is a better carrier of deeper, grander truths than facts.
Absolutely.
Because fiction connects with you at the level of your mind. That's the history it did. Mm-hmm. My first novel, I spent 12 years on it. Fiction connects with you at the level of your heart. It's a felt resonance. And fiction connects with you at the level of consciousness, because it connects your feeling with the next person's feeling, and that universal rasa where Vinitji talked about life coming to a stop because they had to watch the Ramayana or Mahabharata, then you know you have experienced a grand truth.
Right. Now, the question of relatability. Vinit, did you want to build on what he said? Yeah. Okay.
Because you mentioned about the reaction of readers, and so I think for a writer like me, my readers are everything, and that is what I write for. And I must tell you how, what a beautiful thing you said, sir, when you said that, fiction can sometimes be a greater carrier for various things. It could be a feeling, it could be, जिसको हम हिंदी में अनुभूति कहते हैं, या it could be a message, it could be a teaching. And in my books, in Harappa, Pralay and Kashi, and my latest book, Mastan, The Fallen Patriot of Delhi, I've used a very strong historical and, background, but I've spoken about in women empowerment. I've spoken against the caste system, and a lot of various, messages that I wanted to convey. But what is most interesting is that why I feel that those messages must have got conveyed is because of the responses of the readers. I must tell you this small element about the book. The main protagonist in the Harappa trilogy is called Vidyut, and he's a favorite character. You should go and read reviews on Amazon and Goodreads and Flipkart and all these. The Harappa trilogy has more than 11,000 reviews online. And one common thread that you will see, and especially from the ladies, is that Vidyut is magnificent.
Very charming character.
And they connect with him so much. So something happens where he's spoken for. He's spoken for, and he's with a girl called Damini. And of course, there's a there's a haunting story of reincarnations and a lot of that which happens. But in the modern day, Vidyut and Damini are in love. And then the second part came out, Pralay. There's another ravishing, beautiful character, very strong, female character who appears on the scene. And Vidyut has a moment of weakness, and Vidyut ends up kissing her. Her name is Naina. All those ladies who had written emails to me praising Vidyut, I was facing brickbats from all of them. All of them started writing to me, how can Vidyut do this? And he's fallen in my eyes. How can he go with Naina when Damini is there? And I wanted to tell them all, please finish the story. And then, of course, in Kashi, something happens, and Vidyut and Damini are meant to be together, not just in this life, but from the time of the Harappa civilization. But it gave me great satisfaction because it shows that my readers truly emotionally connected with the characters and were living their lives, their ups and downs, their mistakes and their successes together. One of the most common things that you will find, again, online, is the readers recommending, ever since the Reliance thing happened, who should play the character of whom. And there's like Dwarka Shastri can only be, Dwarka Shastri is this Mathadhish from Kashi, who's like a head priest and a tantric and a lot of things mixed together. And they're like, only Amitabh Bachchan can play this role. And Vidyut should be played by Hrithik Roshan. Then some people are saying, no, Tiger Shroff. And Naina can only be Deepika Padukone. So it's just, it's so wonderful to see readers not just living your stories, but actually imagining them on the screen
taking
and
it forward,
recommending.
actually.
Absolutely.
Taking the story forward. Now, my question that I had thought of was on this very idea of relatability. I have modified it a little now. So how much do you relate to your characters? Because, as they say, there is one theory that a writer actually, puts parts of his or her own personality in multiple characters. So, it's like characters are an offshoot of the writer. So somebody has the hair color, somebody has the color of the eyes or the complexion. So it's like certain traits that your characters have are from your own personality or your thoughts.
Well, for all those of you who've read Harappa or all those of you who are going to read Harappa, you will see that there is absolutely no connection because Vidyut is supposed to be magnificently good looking and he's supposed to be half human, half God. So clearly there's no connect there. But Vidyut does have, a very strong element about him, about his personality, the way he deals with people, the valiance in his behavior when the time requires, the softness when he even speaks to a taxi driver. So I can say, and the reason why readers have loved him so much, some of them have said he's like an Indian superhero, where he's not, he's human. But a lot of people have asked me this question, and I only say that Vidyut is somebody I would want to be like. He's not somebody I can ever be like.
An idealized version of yourself, would you say that?
It's not an idealized version of myself. It is several layers of that. And then some things which I feel are not humanly possible, because as the story goes, he's from the bloodline of what were called the last Devtas on planet Earth. So there is an element. You finish the trilogy, you keep trying to spot what was it that was a little divine about Vidyut. You will find something, and Vidyut is very human. Somebody wrote to me, that you've written such a magnificent book, but your main character Vidyut drinks. And he said, you should read K.M. Munshiji's Krishna. How can you have somebody like him smoke or drink? And I wanted to tell them, because he is human. But which is what will happen when you read the Harappa trilogy.
The gods also partook the tipple.
Yeah,
Somras.
Absolutely, yeah. So, but the thing is, you finish the trilogy and you keep trying to think, okay, Vidyut was awesome, but there was something divine about him, and you're not able to spot what it was. So I think he is, like some people said, almost a superhero without a superhero, without a cape. And I urge you to read, the books, because I think you will really, really appreciate the white, the black, and the grey of all the characters, because all of them have that. When you read the Harappa trilogy, you will find 58 important characters. So it's like almost a saga, and which is why I said that if a web series comes out, we are thinking about 3 seasons, one on each book, because that's how I would say vast the story is. I'm sure you'll enjoy it.
Right. My question to you is just the opposite, about detachment. Detachment as a writer and as somebody, because Niti, as I understand it, also talks about, detachment whenever it is necessary. मोह के जो धागे हैं, वो टूटने चाहिए if you have to survive. Mahabharata has taught us. Bhagavad Gita gives that message. How important is detachment for a writer to be able to tell the tale honestly?
If a writer is not detached, when it comes to the great stories of humanity, he will drown. My first novel was written in Shantras. It was about Kota Rani that nobody knew about, and is probably the greatest queen India has had. I spent 12 years. There were days that I would cry. But at the end of the day, when I would write, it was written in Shantras. There are only 2 other books in India written in Shantras, because it is an infinitely difficult, detached state to write in. The first one is Mahabharata, the second one is Kalhana's Rajtarani. How do you get a clue about what an author should be when he writes? Go to the beginning of Mahabharata. What do you see? The reader, the hearer, the emperor is blind. It is Sanjaya's task now to carry the message that the king has said he will not watch because he knows it will be unbearable. So Sanjaya has to carry that message. Now, detachment in Dawn. Remember, what does Dawn face continuously from the beginning of the creation of the universe? Dawn is always facing darkness, right? Always facing darkness. The message of Dawn is in your life, don't be under any illusions. You are going to face darkness. But dawn also has another message, which is over time, that faint light becomes the incandescent light of Surya because of the power in it. And so, even in dawn, there was that detachment, that darkness facing, but light surfacing. And these violent conflicts that Vineet and I write about, because violence is the key threat to humanity that writers get drawn to. Peter, you've done that in your writings. If the writer loses himself in the emotionality, he will drown, he will lose control, and then you, the reader, will not be able to navigate and get to your port.
Right. Would you also like to answer this? How important detachment is for a writer?
Nishtha, I think it is really, I mean, you've been asking such insightful questions, but for me, this is really the question of the day. And this is something which most writers are asked. And this is something that I question myself, very regularly. And I have to confess that there are times that when I am writing, there is so much intensity involved in it that I am unable to detach myself completely and keep myself away from what is happening in the story. So to give you an example, I personally feel that the caste system is perhaps the worst blemish on Hinduism. I have written about it in my book. I felt that, is it really important to speak about it here? But I just felt compelled that this is the only way that I can speak to. So if the Harappa trilogy have sold 3 lakh copies and they say 2 people read every book, I can speak to 600,000 people. And I'm unable to detach my own desire to speak about it. For example, I'm a very strong, I'm very desirous, as are all of us, most of us, about Hindu and Muslim unity. When you read Mastan, my latest novel, which is set in, during the revolt of 1857, and it has brings to life characters like Mirza Ghalib and, all the Nikal Sen and all of that. But you will see that when you speak about the greased cartridges, there is a Muslim who screams out saying, my Hindu brothers will not bite it because it has the grease of beef. And it is the Hindu who screams in favor of his Muslim brother, saying that don't touch this because it has the grease of pork. They are speaking for each other. This is something I'm unable to detach myself with, and I have to speak about it. In Harappa, there is an episode which is a darling to me, and so many people have appreciated it. It's a dialogue between a modern girl who's a journalist and who's come from Delhi, and an aging Purohit from Banaras, from Kashi. And it's a dialogue, and it was written because there was this whole debate about patriarchy, and it was all over social media. And of course, there was a lot of, substance in it. But when fingers were being pointed at Hinduism being the source of all of that, I could not hold myself back and say and remind, my readers that the execution of any religion or any thought or any belief can be whatever, it gets distorted over centuries. But Hinduism, I have written in my book, is a religion where every deity is worshipped with his female consort. Shivji is worshipped with Parvati. Krishna is worshipped with Radha. Ram is worshipped with Sita. It is perhaps, you please pardon my ignorance, but it's perhaps the only religion which does that. And in the book I write that a religion where everything that we hold dear is worshipped in the form of a woman. When we worship wealth and prosperity, it's Lakshmi. When we worship wisdom and knowledge, it's Saraswati. They go to Sitla Mata ka mandir because she's supposed to cure you of. So whether it is wellness, whether it is Annapurna, if a religion worships all the important elements of life in the form of a female, how can you point fingers at that religion and say, you know, there are issues with that? And in one of these discussions, I actually said that it's all about finger pointing, because Sikhism is, you know, very close to my heart. I'm son of an Air Force officer, so I've been taught since childhood to worship and to respect all religions. Today, when my car crosses a Gurdwara, I bow my head. When I cross a mosque, I bow my head. But in one of these gatherings, I said that when you look at Sikhism, all the 10 gurus were all males. There was no single female who was a guru. But nobody points fingers of patriarchy there. So, coming to the question of detachment, all the issues which are really close to my heart, I feel my stories, my novels are the best way for me to be able to connect with my readers and to be able to present them. In that sense, I'm unable to detach completely, and I think you'll find traces of that when you read the books.
Right. Now, the idea that detachment, and you said that whatever your politics is, whatever your ideas are, they find their ways in your book. Now, it is an osmotic process, I would say, because there is always this give and take in a book. Now, to both of you, my next question is, how much of your readers, or how much of your the responses that you have got from your readers have made way into your subsequent works?
So my goal in writing is I want to put my readers in a state of ecstasy. Mercifully, kindly, I was able to do that in the first novel, and the early feedback from the readers is really magnificent. When I look at the points that Vineetji made, you can summarize them in 2 words: mind control. All these divisions that are created since the beginning of humanity is because something has taken over and you are in the grip of mind control. In my novel Dawn, without giving away the story, Dawn is a 16-year-old girl. She is the last girl left alive on Earth. The rest of humanity is completely in the grip of mind control. What is the savior of humanity? What did biologically get created in humanity, recognizing that the mind is a frenemy, both a friend and an enemy? The answer is in your heart. And that's why, if you have absolute conviction of anything, whatever that may be, because your mind tells you that, Hindu, Muslim, Dalit, black, white, you name the divisions. My humble submission is, my friend, I may not know you, but if you have so much conviction in life, so much fixity in life, go spend some time in the company of artists. And if you have a choice of artists, my friend, go spend company in the time of Indian artists. Because I'm a proud Indian, and I will say this: it is only in India that we have boldly proclaimed that the fastest way to achieve consciousness and celestial vision is through rasa. Not through yoga, not through shastra, but rasa. Abhinav Gupta makes that claim. And the practical proof of that is that it's only in India that bhakti rasa is the pathway to the ultimate truth. Name me any other place on earth which says bhakti will get you to that truth. And that's why I celebrate the Indian arts. And in my humble submissions, I try to keep that flame going.
Right.
Can I just add a point to this? Such a beautiful point you've mentioned, sir. And I must share this with you that I was listening to...
very brief because I also want to take some
just 30
questions.
seconds. So there's this beautiful movie of Shah Rukh Khan called Swadesh. There's a wonderful song which is Worship of Lord Ram. And there's a beautiful line in that which says, Ram bhakton hi nahi, shatru ke bhi chintan mein hai. Man se Ravan jo nikale, Ram uske man mein hai. Anybody who can write this first line,
राम भक्तों ही नहीं शत्रु के भी चिंतन में means he has really internalized Lord Ram. And do you know who has written these lines? It is Javed Akhtar. So what you've said is absolutely right. I think the artist community is above these divisions and probably the greatest unifier.
Right, on that beautiful, beautiful note that transcends divisions and talks of unity, I would like to open the floor for questions. There.
Good afternoon. My name is Pooja.
Please keep your questions very, very brief.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, so my question is regarding what do you have to say about fiction being accused of a means of escapism for people who cannot face reality?
Great question.
Who would like to take that?
So the short answer is anything that enables you to escape out of the gravitational forces of the prison of your mind, ride on it.
Brilliant.
But don't stop with fiction. That's why I talk about the importance of Niti. Niti brings you back into fictive reality. Niti is not reality escaping, Niti is reality facing. So, if you just want to eat potatoes, then you'll get calories. But please eat some chanas because that carries nutrition. So, balance your reading also.
Right.
And just to add, why just say that fiction helps you escape reality? Sometimes fiction helps you shape reality.
Understand reality.
Even shape reality. So, for example, I was probably even younger than you when I read some books. I can't remember which ones, but maybe Atlas Shrugged or Fountainhead. And when I read about the characters of of Howard Rourke or Gail Wynand and all of those, I feel they left a lasting impression on me. So I think fiction has the power to change minds, to shape personalities, and to make sweeping changes in a generation. So don't underestimate fiction ever.
Right. The gentleman here. Quickly.
Hello, Namaskar. My name is Ashutosh Hanjura. My question is about, maybe for Kol Sahab. Since Niti, as you said, and as a matter of fact, is very, very close to reality. Because it answers the reality. It is an answer to reality. It's an expression of reality. So we need to express that reality through fiction. Because it's so close to reality. How can fiction have best expression? Reality have an expression through fiction?
So the short answer is Niti says that reality is not limited only to what is perceived by the senses. That there is a meta-reality that is beyond the sensory perception. And when you have problems and challenges in the sensory reality, you need to go at a higher level. And Niti's promise to you, Hanjura Sahib, is this, that there is a Niti solution to every problem in life. But that answer lies at a higher level. You just have to go there to the mountaintop. When you look down, you will see the whole truth and nothing but the truth. But then you have to come back, whether it is Moses coming back, whether it is Muhammad coming back, the metaphor of the prophet coming back to his ground reality is the message of Niti.
Great. The gentleman in red jacket.
My name is Dinesh Rajpurohit, and my question is that how do you feel the concept of spirituality, like the Indian continent has a treasure of spirituality, and the spirituality content is washing away from the Indian youth due to the indulging of some of the other factors that are seeing very Western and glamour-like things. So my question is that what is the role of literature in connecting the youth via spirituality?
Okay, right.
So, look, I'll make it very simple. In the Indian context, spirituality, the simpler word for spirituality is energy. We all belong to the energy framework. this energy can manifest itself in as many ways as you want it to. You can unlock these energy forces in a multitude of ways. And so the purpose of literature in trying to help you achieve your total potential as an unbounded human being. Because remember, what is the curse of being born as a human being? The curse of being born as a human being is that you're born in a finite manner when the reality of your existence is you're infinite. And literature plays a key role in helping you bridge from your finite sensory existence to the infinite you. And that's why the gift of Niti is that you can become a Niti warrior and make that transition.
Right. Last question, very crisp, and a crisp answer from the audience. The gentleman in brown jacket there.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Dr. Rajat. My liking of fiction is also because of one reason. When the books are based on facts, there are things painted in black or white. The author fails to detach himself and he only focuses light on the points that proves his point. Don't we think we need more books that gives both the sides of the coin, that shows both?
Great question. Again, Vineet, I would want you to answer that.
Yes, absolutely. And I'll give you a very, quick example of my own book. I've been speaking about Mastan. There is a debate in India, or there has been a debate whether 1857, was it a revolt, a mutiny, or was it India's first war of independence? You will read a lot of books which support the mutiny, and then, a lot of nationalistic opinions which support, the freedom war. Please take a look at my book, Mastan, where I have really tried to present both the sides in equal measure, with equal research, and with absolutely neutral viewpoint. I think you will appreciate, the point that you've just mentioned.
My quick answer to that was given by the luminescent Abhinav Gupta, whose 1,000-year anniversary was celebrated last year. Non-fiction is about analysis. Analysis is like a knife that cuts and divides. Fiction is about synthesis, and synthesis unites. And Abhinav Gupta says, synthesis as an art form is infinitely superior to analysis. And he says, let's all cook together.
Right. On that beautiful note, we bring this session to a closure. Thanks a lot for being such a wonderful and engaged audience. Thank you very much.
We wish to thank Vineet Bajpai, Rakesh Kaulji and Nishtha Gautam and our sponsors Mathrubhumi. Rakesh Kaul and Vineet Bajpai will be signing their books in the book signing area in front of Mughal 10. Thank you. Book tickets for the Jaipur Music Stage being held between 23rd to 25th January at Clark's Amer. 6:30 p.m. onwards, catch the spectacular line-up including Grammy Award-winning Ricky K, Spotify Spotlight artist Gavin James, Rajasthan Josh, India's most exciting alternative rock band.